Well, it has been a heck of a day. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that I am going to reschedule the second call-in stream for tomorrow. And I'm going to plan on doing it from 4 p.m. CST to 8 p.m. CST. We will see if tomorrow everything works out that I can actually do it at that time. Here's hoping. But I found myself faced with a number of problems today that made it impossible for me to meet the appointed time. So we are rescheduling that. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It just happens tomorrow. And I hope you guys can forgive me for that. Hello, Margot, Nanbot. Hello, hello, hello. Them. Why are we saying them? But once we get a few people in here, we do have some stuff we can talk about for sure. And it's not like I can't do a desktop stream. I just didn't set it up. I was really sick when I woke up this morning. I'm feeling better now, but I was really sick when I woke up this morning and for many hours afterwards. So now that I feel better, I'm like, well, I might as well finish the day out with a stream. But I do have to apologize for not being able to bring you guys that call-in show today like I said I would. It will be tomorrow instead. Make sure you guys hit that like button. It's all right, bro. It's fine. I feel bad about it because, like, I look forward to doing the content that you guys pay for and the goals. Like, whenever we set a goal out and you guys meet those, I really look forward to fulfilling those and actually, like, getting that content out there. So it sucks when things don't work out, you know. But I can't help that I woke up throwing up, you know. Someone just said something about my parents meeting on MySpace. I was conceived before MySpace was invented. Far as I know. I guess I don't know how far back MySpace goes. Does it predate 98? Why only 6 likes but tons of viewers? Because people are saccharine bitches that don't press the like button when their lovely streamer tells them to. Am I a Celine Dion fan? Every night I... Yeah, is that her? Isn't that a Celine Dion song? Every night I see you, I feel you, I hear how I know my... I don't know the really. It's a pretty song. Probably the only Celine Dion song I know off the top, though. Let's scoot up closer so I can actually see you guys. What's up? What's up? What's up? Hi, Billy. My name's not Billy. My name's Phoebe. But hi, nonetheless. Embrace Satan? No. Just because one Bronze Age bullshit like set of beliefs is better than the other doesn't mean it's worth pursuing, you know? I reject all these outdated concepts. Worship yourself. Worship the planet. Worship the sun. And pray to Joe Pesci. 10 internet points to anybody who gets that reference. Are you trans? Not to be rude. I am. I don't think just asking that is rude. I guess it can be interpreted that way, but I don't interpret it rude as the way you asked it. Presented the way you did, I don't think it was rude. Do you like the band Korn? Not particularly. Bro living in his mom's basement. I think that might be a bit of projection there, friend. If you've ever lived in a basement, you know that sound doesn't translate that well through them. If I lived in a basement and I was this close to the tracks, you'd be hearing the vibration through the walls, not the clickety-clack of the tracks as the train rolls by. Jesus loves you. Turn away from sin. What sin do you think I'm engaged in just from sitting here watching me on live stream? What, is smoking a sin? Then why wasn't it elucidated in the Bible as one? Is being trans a sin? Why wasn't it elucidated in the Bible as one? I want to live in a basement? It's got its ups and downs, for sure, for sure. I've always thought it would be cool to have a house with a basement and have, like, my bedroom / recording area / chill out zone down in the basement. But then it's like, what do you do with all the extra rooms upstairs? I don't know. I guess we'll just have to get to that point. But to get to that point, I'm going to have to move the fuck up out of the deep south. The area I live in is literally not, like, you can't build a basement here. I mean, I guess in theory you can, but really the only way you get away with it in this, like, region of the South is if you build your house into the side of a hill or something, and then you've got one of those weird kind of like half basement, half not kind of things. It's like one half of it is basement and the other half of it is like faces out towards the grass and the lawn. You know, even if it was true that I did live, like, in a spare room of my mama's, and I'm just, like, fucking leeching off of that or whatever, it is kind of a strange insult if you think about it, because basically what you're insulting someone with is the love that their mother has for them. You know? It just doesn't, like, logically make a whole lot of sense if you actually thought it was true. North Alabama, bro, there's literally all kinds of regions in the Deep South that fit the dynamic I was talking about. Most of Louisiana fits that metric. Big chunks of Mississippi fit that metric. Big chunks of Alabama fit that metric. Most of Florida fits that metric. And, you know, like you kind of have to be in the mountainous South to be able to build like a proper Midwestern style basement. Or I guess, you know, you've got to be like in the northern, western, or mountainous reaches of the South. Oh, way down south in the land of traders, rattlesnakes and alligators, right away, right away, right away, Dixieland. Where cotton's king and men are, where cotton's king and men are chattel, Union men will win the battles right away, right away, right away, Dixieland. We'll all go down to Dixie, hooray, hooray. Each and every southern boy must learn that he must mind his Uncle Sam. Away, away, we'll all go down to Dixie. Away, away, we'll all go down to Dixie. Hello, Mark. I'm singing the Unionist rewrite of every Neo-Confederate's favorite song. How you, Phoebe? I'm good. I'm good. Just waiting for the chat to come up with something interesting to talk about. So, according to reports, Iran's security chief, more properly, the secretary of the Supreme National Security Council in Iran, has been assassinated. And Iran has vowed retaliation for this attack, even as Trump declares his 17th Chinese victory, as I'm calling it, as a play on the old term Chinese warning. And we are currently in our 17th or 18th day of conflict with Iran. We're seeing more of their leaders being dropped by U.S. and Israeli forces. They are vowing retaliation. Trump is bitching endlessly about the fact that all of our allies that he spent the last 6 months to a year shit talking and trashing, now for some reason just can't find it in him to help us over in Iran. So he is super pissed at them, and yet has to fucking still declare victory because his entire presidency is premised on the idea that everyone's going to come out of it thinking he's an anti-war president, even as he continues ordering the American military to participate with Israel in the continued bombing campaign of Iran. This is why me and so many other leftist content creators have been telling you guys that this is going to be a forever war, because it's we are trapped in a situation where we've got a United States government and an Israeli government. I mean, you can argue that honestly the Israeli project is just going to be like this no matter what, but we've got two governments on this side of the aisle, on this side of the conflict, that are pretty much united in their inability to step away. They have spent so much time propagandizing their people against they've spent so much time propagandizing their people against the idea of peace with Iran. And Trump has spent so much time revving his base up about the idea that there's going to be this big conflict in the Middle East, that we're going to solve all the problems over there and it's all going to be better. that there is no way they can back out. There's no way that they can take the diplomatic route. If you had a single shrewd motherfucker like a Kissinger type in the Trump administration right now, they would be strong arming Trump and Netanyahu both into accepting a peace deal with Iran. Not even, you can't even, that's not even on the table. Fuck that. They would have to stop hostilities. The U.S. would have to rein in Israel, and then they would have to demonstrate a willingness to keep Israel reined in. And that is the wall that we are all up against. All of us who are anti-war here, that is the wall that we're all coming up against. I guess we're going to have to do idiot mode, huh? I guess it really do be like that. Alrighty. Now we've got idiot mode on. Now you have to subscribe to spam stupid bullshit. So just in case you're wondering why, it seems like the Dems are so unable to put in any kind of substantive fight against this war. If you're wondering why it seems like the anti-war movement that is kind of growing in America isn't able to really get that much, like, we aren't even functionally a part of the discourse right now, despite the fact that we are part of the discourse on the ground. We're a big part of the discourse. Most Americans oppose the war in Iran. But if you're wondering why there's a political momentum behind it, it's because Republican and Democrat alike have wanted to invade Iran since before me, you, or most of the other people in this chat were born. And we have allowed ourselves to become stun-locked by governments that are completely unaccountable to the people. Do you support ICE? Nope. ICE should be abolished. It's a redundant organization that exists to siphon taxpayer dollars away to a Zionist-trained xenophobic project that seeks to remove all brown people from the United States, despite the fact that many of those people have contributed massively, not just to our economy, but to the delicate American culture that we have here that is so beautiful and worth preserving. You know, I respect you make people sub first if they want to argue. I don't always, but when it gets to the point where there's like multiple people just spamming 6-7 or find God or whatever, you kind of have to, like, you have to. At a certain point, you have to make people hit that sub button. You got to make them put a little skin in the game. About, but one that I think is completely based and something that we could do right now. I think that all basic necessities that are currently provided in the form of public utilities should be taxpayer funded. I don't think that any of it should come out of a bill that is sent to you specifically. You can still investigate when there's like a sudden uptick in the water usage for a certain thing. Like, there's still ways that you can make sure that people aren't just, you know, like, because the big argument that I get against this all the time is like, oh, well, what's to stop people from just like hoarding all the water then? Well, number one, it's like, how is a normal person going to do that? But number two, it's like, if some business does start using their part of the water supply, if they just start using it for every old stupid thing and start treating it like a necessity, they don't like have to monitor their usage of it all, then at that point you can say like, hey, you've been using way more of this since we changed the system over. these are your new limits. You have to stay within them. And if you do want to go outside of that, then you will have to pay a fine for that. I think that that would be a way better system of distributing our collective labor towards the betterment of mankind than by, I don't know, endless amounts of tax dollars for the military-industrial complex to go bomb places like Iran. I don't know. Just seems like something we could do pretty immediately that would transform every American's life. Imagine if you didn't have to pay an electric bill. Imagine if you didn't have to pay an individual water bill or any of these stupid fucking things that are needed and necessary for human life to go on as we know it, but that are allowed to be heavily privatized and differently regulated across the board. It's bullshit. There's no reason why we have to live this way. I keep wondering if they have a big changing table and someone who is paid to change Trump's diapers. No. We do know that Donald Trump does wear big old sloshy diapers. Big old sloshy diapers. And from what we can tell, he leaves them on a lot longer than you're probably supposed to. So I would say that yes, but I'd say they don't pay that person enough because they aren't. They're just not giving him enough care. They're clearly not taking him into the changing room enough. When I think they do probably have a giant changing table, but I think it's kind of like one of those, like, you know, those chairs that they put pregnant ladies in to deliver their baby, a birthing chair. I think that they've got one of those right off the Oval Office, and they just take him in there whenever they need to change his diaper. Imagine the diaper rash. No, I don't think I want to, actually, no. I don't envy them, and that's for sure. Big Boss needs his diaper changed. Yep, I mean, it is what it is. Hey. If you're down with arthritis, your bowels have colitis, you've gallop and bronchitis, and you're thinking it's time you died. If you've been a man of action while you're lying there in traction, you can take some satisfaction thinking, Jesus, at least I tried. Happens to the best of us, you know, aging. Wouldn't be a problem for the American people if we had age limits on the presidency. What a novel idea that is. Generally, this is Joe Biden, not Trump. It's both of them. Thinking it's one or the other is like electoral brain rot. It's poison. It's electopoison. In an ideal world, I don't think anyone should be allowed to produce or have nuclear weapons. Yeah, no, obviously, yeah, no. Literally, I just thought about something that was so fucking ironic. We are like our entire premise of warmongering against Iran is predicated on the idea that we don't want some madman in the Middle East having nukes. We don't want a nuclear power in the Middle East that could just destroy things and do stuff that's crazy over there. Well, we already have a madman who has nukes in the Americas. Donald Trump's got his fucking finger on the little red button, and he's crazier than a fruitcake. He's nutty as a loon. You want to talk about a madman with nukes? Look no further than the fucking White House. We just needed to show them Muslims what's up. I don't like what. Why? They ain't doing shit to us. They literally have a fatwa against nuclear weapons. And by the way, the dude who fucking now is the supreme leader of Iran is a dude who opposes that fatwa. So if we hadn't fucked with the place, if we'd left their leader alone, and instead normalize relations with Iran, maybe we could have liberalized that country. Maybe we could have made it a functional democracy again, and not this time with massive CIA intervention that teaches the new leaders how to torture people. Easy shit. Very easy. Do you think Kamala would have solved the war that fast? The war ain't solved. We just assassinated one of Iran's security leaders, and they have already vowed retaliation. Strikes have continued throughout the Gulf states, and more of the launched ordnance is getting through. Like, we've got way less interceptors throughout our different interceptor stations in the Middle East, and as a result, more of Iran's strikes are actually hitting their mark. So, like, the war is not over. The problem is not solved. Karg Island might have its military targets taken out, but we don't even know that for sure. Not really. Not for 100% sure. And no, I don't think Kamala would have solved it. Like, Kamala was just as much a warmonger against Trump, she was just as much a warmonger against Iran as Trump is, if not worse. There's a good chance that Kamala Harris might have gotten us back into a war with Iran back in, like, summer last year, remember? Operation Midnight Hammer, I think it was called, when we struck a bunch of Iran's nuclear facilities with the help of Israel. It was like a 12-day long conflict. It didn't spiral out into like this massive across the Persian Gulf conflict like this one has, but I think that she probably would have dipped us into war with Iran back then. Kamala Harris is functionally no different than Donald Trump when it comes to matters of foreign policy. Literally, they are identical in terms of their actual practiced policy. One of the big reasons, though, why Kamala lost the rhetorical battle to Donald Trump is because back during Donald Trump's presidency, or back during his campaign, he was running on an anti-war platform. You guys remember? He was talking about how Kamala was going to get us into World War III, and about how he was going to prevent us from getting into any more of these forever wars in the Middle East. How he wasn't going to meddle in other countries' affairs and all this other shit. But now look at Venezuela, look at Iran. The pattern seems to be developing. He wants to intervene. He is fundamentally a neoconservative, or a repainting, a reformation perhaps, of the old-timey neoconservative. He wants to project American power worldwide, but that's not the rhetoric he used in the campaign, which is one of the reasons why Kamala lost the rhetorical battle, because Kamala was actually honest about how she felt about foreign policy. If she'd lied, maybe she would have done better in the polls in the election. Who knows? Probably would have been better off lying. What a sad state of affairs that is. I think $5 super chat earlier, and I don't know if I ever read it. Let me make sure I read that. Thank you, Nambot, for the $5. I appreciate it. I'm sorry I didn't see that earlier. You know who is a sociopath who invented nuclear weapons? Like, okay, so I don't think the people who invented nuclear weapons were necessarily sociopaths. I think they were working against and along a lot of different pressures. And, like, honestly, if you look at the reaction that a lot of the scientists who worked on the Manhattan Project, if you look at their reactions to what they created in the aftermath, most of them, if not all of them, felt horrible about it. So I don't think they were sociopaths. The sociopathic country that drove the development of the nuclear weapon was the United States, who, despite, yes, having found a greater evil in the axis of evil present in Nazi Germany, fascist Italy, and Imperial Japan, we were still a pretty fucked up country even then, and we've remained a fucked up country. That doesn't mean there's not things worth preserving. That doesn't mean I don't love America, but we have to recognize our flaws if we're to ever repair them. Who do you think the best president in the past 15 years is? So from 2011 onward? I don't know, maybe Obama, because he did the fucking whole, like, pre-existing conditions thing. That was kind of cool. It's really the only substantive change to the way life works here in America that's happened in the last 20 years, if you think about it. As far as, like, positive changes, I mean. There's been lots of negative changes, trust me. There's been lots of improvements. But as far as like substantive changes to the way like your insurance works or anything like that, Obama, I mean, he did the ACA, which was a failure in a lot of ways, but one of the ways in which it did help was it prevented insurance companies from denying you care on the basis of pre-existing conditions, which was nice. And he allowed he made it a lot easier for self-employed people to get insurance as well. Are you saying everything got worse after Obama? You can be like a hardcore leftist and still recognize that Obama was a failure of a president who overpromised and underdelivered. And what I mean by overpromised then is I don't mean he asked for things or suggested things of the campaign trail that were impossible. I think they were entirely possible. I just don't think he was genuine in his intention to pursue them. And as a result, it's a form of overpromising. He promised a universal healthcare system here in America, a public option that would allow people, for the first time ever, to opt in to Medicaid if they want to be covered by a public option. And instead, what we got was an insurance mandate that required you to buy private insurance or face a tax penalty, and a couple of slight changes to the system that made it a little easier for self-employed people to get insurance and made it possible for people with pre-existing conditions to get insurance. That's it. That's all the ACA ended up ultimately being in the long term. And that is perhaps the most critical failure of Obama's presidency. If you want to look at things that just like affected American lives directly, that would have been such a massive symbol of change. That would have been such a big thing if it had happened. People would have been able to rally around that and say, look at this. This is a thing. We've taken it out of the marketplace. We've made it a public thing. And now look how well it's doing. Look how many Americans have healthcare now. Instead, we got fucked. Obama also promised to close down Guantanamo Bay, end extraordinary rendition, end the drone war, and end the forever wars in the Middle East. And he failed critically on all four of these fronts. And then Donald Trump came in behind him and continued almost all of those same policies. Never managed to functionally undo the worst parts of the the ACA. Thankfully, never got rid of the only good parts about it and introduced changes that just pushed us further away from the national community and made our economy even more favorable to billionaires and corporations. And then Joe Biden came in and continued those same policies. It's been nothing but austerity politics and pro-bourgeois bullshit for my entire life. Hold on 1 second, y'all. You have no idea what you're talking about. 20% of the population pays 20% of the population pays 90% of the taxes. The bottom 50% pays 2% of the taxes and use most taxes. Yeah, the problem is that the top 1% own the bottom 50% of all wealth. So, like, what you're telling me is that the tax situation is pretty fucked up and does not favor the working class nearly enough. The bottom 50% of people should be paying functionally nothing in taxes, and obviously should be the highest recipients of direct tax benefit. That is the way you are supposed to spend taxes. Do you think India is a threat? No. No, I really don't. I think we want to get along with India if we can. India is very much like China in that respect. China and India are both threats in the sense that they might eventually become like a united superpower that can eventually challenge American economic hegemony, but I don't look at that as a threat because I think that would be a good thing. I think that it would require the American people to start creating systems and communities that would survive independent of the global economy. It would force us into a state of reality. It would force us out of our consumeristically dominated lives. It would force us to be real for 5 minutes. Gob, I'm not a fucking Joe Biden defender. I don't know why you're fucking coming at me with what Joe Biden did. This is why electoralism is fucking poison. This is why. Because there are some fucking people in this country whose brains have been so fucking poisoned by fucking Fox News and CNN that the only politicking that can be done in this country is left, right, red, blue. You Republican or Democrat? There's no other fucking room. There's no other axes. It's FUBA politics, literally. It's football game politics. You stake your claim with a certain team and you run with it no matter how retarded it is, and you just assume that anybody who's got an argument with you must be a representative of the other team. There's no way they could be somebody off on the sideline saying, hey, you guys are both cocksuckers! We have an insanely generous system? No. Well, yes, we do have an insanely generous system to the billionaire class. We allow the billionaire class to lord over America like petty fucking feudal lords. And we do nothing about it but tax them a little bit and allow them to pay armies of accountants to reduce their taxes to functionally nothing. Defend for me why it's okay for me to have to pay taxes when Amazon gets away with paying functionally nothing in taxes every year. Explain to me and every other American in this chat why it's okay for us to have to pay anything out of our fucking paycheck while corporations like Walmart are going around paying functionally zip in taxes. I'm sorry, this generation, this generous system to billionaires has to go. We have to fundamentally realign our society towards supporting the worker, towards being led by the worker. We have an undemocratic system in America that is shambling under a facade of fake democracy that doesn't even resemble the real thing in a remote sense. Our founding fathers would be so fucking disappointed. They 100% would be. They 100% would be. They would look around at this fucking facade of democracy that we're all trying to shamble on underneath as if it resembles something real and laugh in our faces at the decrepitude of our system. They are rolling over in their graves looking at our unwillingness, our utter unwillingness, even to take to the streets peaceably as they ascribed us our right in the Constitution. What are the American people doing instead? We're engaging in an illegal and offensive war in Iran, a war of choice against a non-aggressor in the Middle East. And what are the American people doing? Doom scrolling for the most part. No, I'm actually what the Founding Fathers would have considered a free thinker. They would have liked me, even if they would have, They might have even made an argument that I, in particular, should be allowed to vote. There were particular women the Founding Fathers should be allowed to vote. There were particular people of all different kinds of races, makeups, and everything that the Founding Fathers were like, yeah, those in particular, they should be allowed to vote. But, for now, we have to have this system that favors the white male landowning class because those are the people who have the education to know what's really going on in the democracy that we're building. Now, of course, I think that this was a classist, racist, and sexist thought process, but you can kind of see where they were coming from given the context of their time. Nowadays, it makes a lot more sense for all of us to be able to vote, but the problem is most of us are too stupid to know what the fuck is going on. Not because none of us own land, but because too few of us spend the invaluable resource that we have in all of our hands, the cell phone that we've all got. So few of us spend that reading. So few of us use that resource to educate ourselves, to stay abridged of what's going on. This nation is rotten to the core. You're a real one. Well, thank you for the $2. I appreciate that a ton. Thank you. If anybody else would like to super chat, that is the best way to add your voice to the discourse, ask me a compelling question, or anything else. Every single donation you send supports a small-time trans creator in her journey to make content online full-time. Thank you and so much. Tremendously. And awesomely. Bigly. Also depends on where we are educating ourselves. Well, that's the beautiful thing about, that's the beautiful thing about getting a good education, right? And one of the horrible travesties about the fucked up American education system as it exists right now and as it exists in so many states. We don't do a very good job at teaching people how to critically think. And if you don't know how to critically think and how to critically examine media, if you don't know, if you don't have the skill that is critical media analysis, you probably aren't going to be very good at discerning fake news from real or a good study from a bad one, etc., etc. Now, there are obviously ways you can intervene. If you're a parent, you can make sure that your kid has access to a wide, abundant array of verified good education materials. You can get them reading early. You can help encourage their reading, as their parent. But insofar as the school system is concerned, we really aren't even focusing on it as a political issue anymore. Nobody wants to make the school system functional anymore, and that's because the billionaire class knows that a stupid populace is an easily controlled one. It goes back to this old George Carlin bit. He talks about how the school system is fucked up, and it's going to stay fucked up because the people in power don't want intelligent, rational people capable of critical thinking. They want obedient workers, people just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork, and just stupid enough to accept their shittier hours, worse shifts, end of overtime, and a vanishing pension that disappears completely the moment you go to collect it. I went to one of the No Kings protests in PA. Everyone protesting was peaceful, and you'd have no clue how many people stopped to scream at us and shout obscenities. I'm in a dominant red state. Oh, yeah, dude. People are at each other's throats these days, even when people are just being completely fucking peaceful. It is insane how many right-wingers are just looking for some open sign of leftism. They're rebels without a cause, man. They're people that want desperately to be angry at something because they know, on some deep visceral level, they know that Trump isn't solving their fucking problems, never was. That Stephen Miller isn't solving their fucking problems, never was. That this war in Iran is not solving any of their fucking problems. They know that the world is not turning out in their favor. They know that their 401k is not going to look all that much better than it would have with any other goddamn president at the end of the shit. And on some visceral level, they realize that Donald Trump is not their savior. But they are all married to this delusion. And this internal cognitive dissonance causes, I think, an enraged reaction, like a state of perpetual rage and dissatisfaction that is just looking for any outlet that it can get. They have to believe, and therefore they have to look for, leftists. They have to believe that leftists are the ones who are instigating all the problems in the country, despite the fact that they've got the Congress, the Senate, and the executive. Despite the fact that they've got the courts. The Republican Party, many different branches and vibes and shit, pretty much dominate the American government. And yet, conservative voters remain angry. They remain feeling disenfranchised, pissed off, just waiting for some leftist openly expressing themselves for them to chimp out on. Why is that? If they were winning, they'd be happy, right? So why aren't they? I have a theory. I think they know they're not winning. I think they know that they are at the ass end of a long cultural war that has been leaning against them for a very long time, and that their way of life represents a traditionalist and archaic, almost arcane at this point, way of doing things that is more appropriate at a Renaissance fair than it is in everyday life. What they want is for us to say they are cool and funny. Yeah, pretty much. But it goes a lot deeper than that, I think. Usually towards the end of stream, she's pretty good. Somebody requesting guitar. Yeah, I mean, I always say, if you guys want me to bust out the guitar, $10 or more, and I'll play a song. People choose to be stupid. There is complacency and stupidity in choosing to be a victim. You choose your own struggles in life. There is a split left-right because there is no discourse. I agree with some of that, and I disagree with others. Like, you can't discount the influence of the systems that affect people's lives and the choices that they make, number one. But I do agree that there is a complicity and complacency that comes with stupidity. You have to be, like, on a certain level. That's why I was kind of, like, deriding people for not using their cell phones to educate themselves earlier. But systemic critique is recognizing that it's hard for a lot of people to even do that, not because it's necessary. Well, yeah, for some of them it is literacy, but honestly, the bigger problem is media illiteracy in the sense that they don't have any way to critically analyze media. And that's a way bigger problem than just baseline illiteracy. Like, most Americans can read at or below a 4th grade level, which is about what you need to be able to read to, like, basically get through life in the modern day. But that's not enough to be able to discern, like, satire from real shit reliably. It's not enough to discern good, reliable reporting from bad. Conservatism isn't right-wing, it's simply to the right of center. While that may be true, most of the time when you hear people using terms like right-wing, they are using it as a catch-all term for anything right of center. So, I feel like you can excuse some interchangeability there. Watching in from Kiel, Germany, just a 50-year-old young bio woman, and you will see, thanks to God in the heavens, that these kinds do not make it further than this, and the net will not lose it, you real? Okay. Well, thanks. Thank you for the $2 Decadia Rose. I appreciate that a lot. I'm glad I discovered this channel. I'm glad I'm on this live. Phoebe, you have a great night. Keep using your platform to fight the gold fight. Woody Go 3 would be proud of this. Aw, thank you. Hold on one second. I like to think you're right. Do you smoke? Can't you tell? Oops, I didn't know that you had to type the message for Super Chat. Oh, yeah. But I look at your message to see if you sent something. I'm still 100% sure that the whole leader pedo ring was about to get exposed in the files, and they immediately pressed the World War III button to deflect. Guarantee they won't say that. I don't know if that's 100% true. And I'll tell you why. Because I genuinely think that there is nothing at this point that could be released that is going to be more condemning than an active and ongoing multi-year FBI investigation, series of interviews and everything else that concludes after Trump wins the presidency with the victim in question withdrawing her participation in the investigation because she doesn't want to get, like, basically she doesn't want retribution from the president, and she knows that no one is more capable of retribution than the president. She was also afraid that the FBI would stop you know what's the word I'm looking for, collaborating with her, I guess, once Trump got his appointees into position. So but that investigation suggests very heavily that Donald Trump, at the very least one time, I don't even know if I should say it, like, because I don't know if I'll get fucking fucked with by YouTube, but look into the allegations. My point is this: what could they possibly, and because people will say the same thing on the other side too, or not on the other side, but from the other side of the issue, they'll say, like, oh, well, maybe they did this Iran war thing because Israel's got some compromise. They've got some kind of compromising material on Trump, and they threatened to release it unless Trump went along with this war. And my thing is, like, what is possibly going to be released in the Epstein files next, or going to be dropped by Israel, that is going to be worse than an active ongoing investigation that suggests the President of the United States, Donald Trump, may have been involved in some kind of, like, rapey shit with an underage girl? You know, like, what is going to be dropped that's more condemning than that? What would you say to somebody who's not into politics because they don't trust the government already? Well, people not being into politics, in my opinion, is a big part of why the government is so untrustworthy. The government in democratic societies like the one we live in, which could be a democracy again, I don't think it's a functional democracy right now, but I think it could be. I think that it's still within our grasp. And in a democracy, or something close to it, you've got the ability to influence your government in a lot of different ways, depending on the degree of freedom and expression you've got in that given society. Here in America, we've got a number of levers. We've got abundant levers on the systems of power that control our lives. And unless you participate in that system, you'll never have any influence whatsoever. Some people say that people like me have no influence, and I would agree that we've got little, but I've got more influence as a person saying, talking shit online for a living about the things I believe in politically, and voting and participating in protests and stuff like that, than somebody who just goes along to get along, doesn't pay any attention to political shit whatsoever, doesn't even read the news, doesn't even participate really in any kind of, like, community organizing or solidarity work or anything like that, because, like, I'm participating in the systems by which change happens. Then that person is just kind of like being swept along on the current, like a leaf on the river. Not to say there's anything wrong with being a leaf on the river. Sometimes that's the right position to be in life. I mean, sometimes you just got to hustle and grind, and that's all you've got time for. But if you've got the ability, even the smallest willingness, like if the fact that the government is corrupt pisses you off, you can affect that by becoming politically active. It doesn't mean you're ever going to fix it in your lifetime, but you can help. The left imported 20 million people during the time we only built 2 million homes. This is 1,000 times more than BlackRock and the price of housing soared. This is the ignorance of your blind altruism. What are you talking about? The left imported 20 million people. What are you even talking about? Huh? Ain't nobody getting imported into America besides by corporations that regularly bring in foreign workers to do jobs that they claim Americans can't do. And in that case, they pay for the whole process and then they usually go back afterwards. So it's like, we're talking about people who are like hopping the border, or who are like getting visa overstays for jobs that are like a little less loosely enforced and shit, or a little more loosely enforced, I should say. What are we even talking about? Hey Phoebe, how you doing tonight? I'm doing good. Yeah. By the way, I'm just going to remind you guys, I was going to do a call-in show today. I did not do it today because I got sick, but I will be doing that tomorrow, 4 p.m. CST to 8 p.m. CST. Mark your calendars. It'll be a stream on this channel. Keep that in mind if you want to call in and debate me. Also, consider donating $10 or more if you want to hear play some guitar music, or donate any amount of money if you want to get your comment read or your question answered. That is the best way to add your voice to the discourse. You can also donate via Cash App, which is down below. Sorry, I have to plug these things every once in a while, or people forget they exist. Stop saying you're smart and literate. I didn't say I was. When did I say that? I feel like I'm reasonably smart and literate, but I don't think I've said it in this stream. You know what the ignorant people don't? You're profoundly ignorant, my friend. Stop being so confident in yourself because it's painful. Oh, I get the problem. So I can like speak confidently and I'm sure of myself and I like know shit, and it's making this person insecure because they have to like Google everything that they say before they say it because they are nervous and unconfident about all of their beliefs. I can see why you're a liberal who shifted to the GOP. You don't believe in anything. You've never learned enough to believe in anything. Oh, well, hi, Slot. What a sweet comment. I debated some MAGA guys and briefly mentioned being trans, and they got mad. Oh, of course they did. Because it, like, instantly triggered their, like, snowflake disease, right? It instantly made them pissed off because they're, like, propagandized to about how horrible we all are all day. So anytime they encounter one of us in the wild, it's like... I've ordered cards from a small seller called Wasteland Gaming. Just thought it could be a fun small world moment. Hey, that is kind of cool. That is neat. That is neat. By the way, you guys should sign up for the membership like Nambot's got, because I read those comments more often than I read regular non-member comments. I don't catch them as often as I catch SuperChats. I catch all of those, but I am more prone to read your comment if you're a member. What's your real name? Phoebe? What do you mean? Duh. My friend is thinking about becoming trans. Do you recommend becoming trans, or is it not recommended? I don't... Huh? Like what? You either are or are not trans, and I think that if someone thinks they are, they should like probably... If you're like younger, you should definitely like try and talk to like at least, you know, some school counselors about it, and then like try and get your parents to let you see a therapist about it. You know, like you should talk to some professionals, I think, to like be sure if you've got the ability to. But if you're an adult, I think that you can look into the experiences of trans people and what it means to be trans, and the different research that's gone into it, and make your own decision as to whether you feel like that aptly describes you, or whether or not like maybe you're just like someone who likes to cross-dress, or maybe you're like genuinely trans and you want to live as the opposite gender that you were assigned at birth forever, right? It just depends. It's something you have to look into on your own, and if you've got professional help, it does help. You're not gay or trans, bro? Who the fuck are you to tell me what I am? What a pretentious comment. What an effortless, horrible word. What an effortlessly pretentious comment. You normalizing Marxism? Not a Marxist, but okay. I'm an anarchist. Thanks, though. Makes me unbelievably insecure. I don't know if wild horses could get me to admit a thing like that, but okay. You are 100% correct. I will give you that much. This normalization of Marxism insecure the coming war. The coming war between what? Number one, I'm not a fucking Marxist. I'm an anarchist. Number two, the coming war between who and what? You keep vaguely gesturing towards this idea of war, but you haven't once cited what you mean by that, or what the war is going to be over, or who it's going to involve, who are the parties. I feel like that Middle Eastern dude in The Power of Nightmares that's being interviewed by like one of the producers, probably Adam Curtis, and he's like, I have so many questions. Where is Afghanistan? From where do I get the visa? Which airlines go there? Who is leader over in Afghanistan? 1 million question. Define anarchy: a way of life characterized by the destruction of unfair and unjust hierarchies and their replacement by democratically operated structures, led, maintained, and comprised of the people. Look at that. Big Johnson fucking signing up for a membership. Thank you for that. Holy midlife crisis, Batman. I'm about 15 years off from my midlife fucking crisis, so fuck you. Now I identify as a liar, bro? Is this some weird in-joke that I'm supposed to understand? Do you support Iran or do you support the attack against? I support the people of Iran and their struggle against the great Satan that is America. While I think that the Ayatollah and the mullahs that run Iran are a pretty evil bunch of guys, I think that they have found themselves a greater evil in the United States and Israel. It's hard to do sometimes, I grant you, but in this instance, they've done it. What's your religion? If religious, I'm not religious. I'm just kind of a crazy hippie. If I hear about a belief that doesn't ask too much of me and seems interesting, I'll just believe it for fun. Like panpsychism, for example. Like, do I have any evidence for panpsychism? Nope. But I do like it as a philosophy. I'm attracted to it as a philosophy, so. Auntie Kahuna Mahuna, thank you for the $5. I appreciate that a ton. Look at that. A free-floating fiver. Do you support the existence of Jews or the existence of Israel as the land for Jews? Obviously, I support the existence of Jewish people. Like, how can you not? I mean, like, that would be genocidal to be otherwise. But as far as, like, supporting the land of Israel as a homeland for Jews, I feel like if we can achieve that in a state with a coalition government that allows Palestinians, Arabs, and Jewish people to all have representation within that government, and that government can be made peaceful to not war with its neighbors, to not interfere in the politics of the surrounding nations, then I would be okay with that. I do think that all aid to Israel should entirely be conditional. That they should be, that aid to them should be reduced or cut off when they commit atrocities, and that we should use the levers of power that we have over this colonial state that we've created in the Middle East to corral them into being better people on the on the global stage. Hi, I'm new here. What's going on? We basically just have conversations about current events, religion, politics, gender. It doesn't really matter that much, but we talk about whatever the chat wants to talk about on these live streams, in these like vertical kind of, I'm just here on my phone kind of streams. Now, sometimes you'll see me streaming and I'll be on a desktop and it's a different set. And in those, usually we'll do call-ins, or we will like look at content on stream, watch videos, do tier lists, stuff like that. But on these particular streams, it's me bantering with the chat, arguing about current events for the most part. Sick battle jacket. Thank you. Thank you. Ignore is amongst us. Ignore. I like the lighter caps you got on there. They are nice, aren't they? Yeah, it's a good look. Honestly, battle jackets need to come back. If I manage to browbeat Vosh into an appearance on his channel, I'm definitely going to have to try and red pill him on the idea of the battle jacket. Because I think he could look good in one. Obviously, it'd have to be like a bougie one, custom made for some kind of rich person, but you get, like, you know. I may use that idea for my crust bands. Dude, this is a time-honored Dirty Kid fucking / crust punk tradition. If you ain't never heard of lighter trophies, dude, lighter trophies are some of the most easily obtainable and easy to manipulate decorations that you can apply to your clothing. Plus, they tell a story of your lung cancer. It ain't a battle jacket if it's fancy. You can still do the style, but do something with like really high quality material. I've thought about doing it. I've thought about making these jackets for sale. You know, like not, you know, doing them all up, but putting like some basic stuff on there and making it something that would look good on its own, but that you could customize yourself and add more shit to. I've thought about doing that and making like some that are like affordable, made out of like Goodwill type of materials, and then some that are made out of like really high quality materials that maybe cost like $100 to make, but then I sell it for like $1,000 or something, you know? I think it could be a really cool like art thing that I could do. And the benefit of making like crust punk type shit means that you don't have to have like the most beautiful sewing hand or whatever. But I am actually a pretty okay seamstress. So I don't know. I think about it, you know. I genuinely want to hear perspective thoughts on religion. Well, what specifically do you want to hear? We can talk about it. I'm okay with talking about it. Republican economy has me rolling with spliffs with that warning about to run out sheet. Yeah, dude. Ugh. That's when you know shit's getting bad. The worse it looks, the better. I tend to agree. I tend to agree. To some degree. Apologies, I just saw your age and came to the conclusion that you're not who I thought. Righteous. Cool. Dental floss and blood. Hell yeah. Somebody knows. Man. Oh, the memories. Anyway. W drinking from a jug. Yeah, I mean, you gotta stay hydrated, right? Do you believe in a god or fall under Scientology? No, dude, I'm not a Scientologist. What? I'm not a Scientologist? You kidding me? I'm too broke. Scientology ain't trying to recruit my ass. I ain't got 50 grand to spend getting up the fucking bridge of torture or whatever it is. Yeah, I'm just saying, I ain't got 80 grand to spend getting up the bridge to total freedom or whatever it is, you know? I live in Oregon and everyone knows the best weed comes from the Pacific Northwest. You know, I can't fault you there. I don't know that for sure because I've never been up that way, but I have had West Coast weed, and it is usually better than what you'll find in most of the rest of the country, so there might be something to it. Oh, man. You know, TJ has pretty much roundly denounced, not denounced, but he's pretty much roundly relegated the idea of an RV trip across America to the, you know, like that's just in the dustbin of history. But I want to do it, dude. Now, maybe I'm making the same dumbass promise and it's going to come back to bite me in 10 years, you know? I'm fucking kick streamer. Now I got to do an RV trip across America I don't even want to do anymore. But I want to do it as of right now because I feel like I've got the experience to make it work. Like, I fucking lived in a minivan for 2 years, traveling across America's interstates and back roads, and it was a pretty fucking big minivan. Not as big as an RV by any means, but I do have a lot of experience driving for long stretches of time across a lot of different states and conditions. I have spent a lot of time in RVs because of like my proximity to Rainbow and because I grew up with grandparents who had like they pretty much either had like a camper trailer or an RV for my entire childhood, and every summer we would go somewhere in that, and like there is a lot to be said for how much you can do with even a minivan. So I can't imagine how much more you could do if you had something like an RV you were able to, get access to. And if you were looking at it from the standpoint of like, well, I can use this as a personal vacation vessel after I get done doing this for content or as a tour thing or whatever, you could easily buy a Class B RV or something like that, one of those like mid-sized RVs for like 20 grand, and then you'd have it for the rest of your life. And yeah, it might not be like the newest, nicest model, but it's probably still going to be fucking fine. So I think about it because it would give me an excuse to visit all of the conglomerations of fans that I've got throughout the country, go up the Pacific Northwest and visit Ignar and do some content with him, and then like go up to the Northeast and do some content with Desi and Kyle, and then fucking I don't know. Excuse me. Saw some frogs walking my dog in Portland today, and they looked even gayer than usual, so I don't know, maybe chemtrails? Well, were they the upright frogs, or were they the, like, ribbit, like, amphibian frogs? Were they the kind of frogs that would drown if you dump, like, if you, like, toss them in a big lake? Or were they the kind of frogs that would just, like, kind of swim away and be fine? Bibbity type? Oh, okay. We all come from other people. Speak for yourself. I was made in the lab. I was cooked up in a factory. I don't know about you. I like buses for travel, but not at $5 a gallon diesel. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I would want to try and look into if I was really going to do that is I would want to figure out if I could get some kind of, like, not that old, but older model RV from, like, the early 2000s or something like that could possibly be converted to run hybrid. Because I'm sure that they already make these. I'm sure that they probably already make a few electric ones. But, you know, buying a new RV is like 200 grand. Buying an old RV is like 20. And if you were going to seriously do it, you could probably do the conversion of an older one for a lot cheaper than you could buy a new one that comes with that stock. But it is like a huge expenditure if you're just thinking about it like from baseline. Not impossible to hybridize, but it's tedious. Well, I'd imagine. But, too, like, if you did, like, okay, so one of the reasons I'm talking about it is, like, as a way for me to do some, like, content if I get to the point with this channel where I've got the money sitting around to be able to invest in something like this. And if I had that, I would probably be able to, like, you know, like, honestly, even if I did pay people to do certain parts of the process, even if I paid people to do the whole fucking thing, I'd probably still end up spending a lot less than somebody who, like, got, like, a brand new one. You know, it still might be affordable in a way that getting, like, a brand new one might not be. You know, because, like, you could feasibly be making, like, you know, you could be making like 60 grand a year and be able to feasibly afford over the course of a couple of years a $25,000 project. But it would take you a lot longer to afford a $200,000 expenditure. So, that's my logic. Labor alone, it would be high, but it wouldn't be $100,000 high, you know? It'd be like, you know, 10 or 20 grand on top of the original expenditure for the vehicle itself. What about trucks with camper toppers? No, like, see, that's not what I'm thinking about is being able to have a functional recording space so I can continue to make the regular content that I always do, but also be able to, like, accommodate a guest or two and be able to make meals and shower and use the bathroom in. There has to be, like, pretty complete functionality in that scenario for it to work, I think, and at least from in my opinion. I've thought about it. Are you yanking your crank? No. When I was looking at an older bus that still ran, they ran about 8K. That's another thing I've thought about, is an old schoolie. Like, if I got an old schoolie for like 8 or 10K, that's even cheaper than the RV. You do have to spend quite a bit on the conversion, but I'm not going to be trying to live like one of these fucking influencers where everything looks fucking exactly perfect. I've got pretty simplistic tastes that I think would, on the whole, be cheaper than what I see a lot of these bitches putting in their shit. I'm not saying it would be Spartan in there, but I'm saying, like, I've got kitschy tastes, I guess you would say. I like the idea of scavenged wood paneling, you know? Just asking somebody with an old barn on their property, or even like an abandoned property that's like wrapped up in probate, you contact the family and say, hey, can I use some of this lumber? I'm like, yeah, it's fucking, you give them like $20 for the fucking privilege, and then you haul off like half the old collapsed barn, and then you process that into wood you can use. I would love that. But the point is, it would be cheaper to do any of these ideas we're sitting around discussing here than it would be to like buy a brand new one outright. I think it's affordable in a way that like you wouldn't necessarily think it would be. It sounds like an unaffordable dream, but it's really not the more you look into it. You just have to be willing to lower your standards a little bit, or to do things unconventionally. I mean, you still have to be able to afford that, like, massive amount of money, too, obviously. I'm just saying, like, I feel like, I've never made that much money, but I feel like, in my mind, 25 grand is a lot more attainable than, like, 200 grand. I don't know if that's just a problem of my brain and its relationship to numbers, but, like, when I think about it in my head, okay, I've made close to 20 grand in a year. So in theory, if I really set my mind to it, I could save up enough to afford that over the course of 4 or 5 years at that low income. And if I ever got to the point where I'm making like 60 grand a year, 70 grand a year, 80 grand a year, it'd be incredibly easy to afford it, especially with the cost of living of the area that I live in. If you get one of those little converted pickup buses, you don't need a CDL for them because the passenger capacity is low enough and they don't need air brakes. You don't need a CDL for most of the, you don't need a CDL for any of the RVs that I would want to be looking at, or like a schoolie. If you're using it for, I'm pretty sure if you are using a schoolie for residential purposes and not as like a people hauler, you don't have to have a CDL. Pretty sure the only time you have to have a CDL driving a schoolie is if you're driving it to haul passengers for money. But I may be wrong on that. I don't believe I am, though. Are they? I may be wrong. Can't get a CDL as a starter? Yeah, no, I know. I don't know if schoolies do actually require you to have a CDL, which I'm not entirely sure that's 100% true. I've certainly seen a lot of rainbow hippies driving fucking school buses that did not have. There's no way they had fucking CDLs. They smoked way too much weed and did way too much acid. Granted, I know that they can't, it's harder to detect acid. I get that, but still, you get the point. They were way too drug-addled to have CDLs, okay? And I've seen them. I've been to rainbow gatherings multiple years, and I've just seen them bitches. I know, so there gotta be some damn loophole somewhere. Only need a CDL if you're hauling passengers, and then only if you're hauling passengers for pay, right? like you can haul passengers and just not like in exchange for money, right? I mean so like I did quit weed for a long time back in 2019. I quit weed for a long time, and like I really did want to get my CDL and basically do over the road trucking for a while until I had enough money to like basically start a channel like this. Was my idea, was to get up enough money to be able to like buy myself a little patch of land, build a tiny house on it with a functional recording studio and like the main part of it, and then like try my best to start doing content. And then if that doesn't work out, well, I've always got that license to fall back on. That was the plan, right? But then, it didn't work out because I came so close to being hired by a company, and then this wreck that I had already told them about and that I thought was going to be fine and clear, um, it ended up being an issue. So they were like, okay, well, you'll have to wait for like a year after the date of that crash, and then you can reapply and you'll probably be accepted. But that crushed my heart and my spirit, and I just like moved on to other plans. And that was like 6 years ago now. Almost 7 years ago now. 6, 7. If you aren't working CDL, you still have to maintain a DOT physical cert, which includes a UA. You just won't get randomed. Ooh, neat. Interesting. Shorts have the same standard as a U-Haul or old Wonder Bread truck. Also look into old small-sized Wonder Bread truck. Yeah, dude, that is another option for sure. It's like a box truck or an old U-Haul truck or something. That's another option. The thing I don't like about box trucks, though, is that box trucks are designed to have a lot of weight stacked fairly close to the floor and pressing pretty evenly down. And a lot of the things you would want to do, like RVs are kind of designed to distribute their center of gravity and make it as low as possible. But I feel like you would have to be really conscious of that if you were trying to modify a box truck into livable conditions. I would imagine it would involve placing quite a bit of storage under the box, basically, and probably placing pretty much everything you possibly can under that box, as far as like appliances and shit like that. There's ways you could do it, I'm sure. Anyone here know why kids drop random numbers in chats when they're pissed off? I get it in games, not sure why. You got me. Ask the kids, bro. Think I understand? Where's the bowl for haircuts? Huh? Bitch, you can literally see that I don't have a fucking bowl cut. Are you retarded? Electric Wizard fan at all? Can't say I've ever heard of it. How do you pronounce your name? Phoebe. Hi. Well, the chat has gotten to that wonderful point in the night where I don't know if there is actually a conversation going on or if we're all just kind of like typing out the inner contents of our id. It's fine, I guess. Hello, Matthew. Huh? What? Is that a teddy bear next to you? Where? There? No. I'm trying to power bottom the trolls. I guess it's a strategy. Can I just be coked out and say random shit? I guess you can. I guess we ain't gonna stop you. As long as you don't knock over nobody's drink or get in their face or nothing, I guess you're fine. I ain't gonna swat the crack pipe out of your damn hand. Sorry, in my defense, I had a long work day. This is a great stream to wind down to. Phoebe has great energy about her. Aw, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind. I don't mind that everybody's just shit posting and everything. I feel like it's kind of natural towards the end of these streams for everybody to kind of be like, you know, winding down and chilling out. Javier from Argentina is Benjamin Netanyahu's cousin. You'd be shocked at how many of the world's leaders are related in some form or another. Even a lot of America's like business and political leaders related in some way. If you haven't tried the soft silicone ear hooks for your glasses, I'd recommend them. My glasses never droop anymore. Maybe I need to try it. These are just fucked up glasses. I mean, they're held together with tape on this side and a screw that doesn't belong on this side. So they're just fucked up glasses. It's one of the things I need to replace this year if I'm able. Phoebe, you got any good advice for finding a top to go with a skirt? I'm shorter, but built like you otherwise. Yeah. I'm shorter, but built like you otherwise. So you're saying you're a little on the chubby side. I guess it depends on the weather. How long is the skirt? How long are we talking? I'm assuming it's like a knee high or something. Order like 4 sizes too big if you get anything from Asia. Sometimes you don't know you're getting it from Asia until you get the shipping notification, though. And that's the worst. Oh, way down south in the land of traders, rattlesnakes and alligators, right away, right away, right away, Dixieland, where cotton is king and men are chattel. Union men will win the battles right away, right away, right away, Dixieland. We'll all go down to Dixie, hooray, hooray. Each southern boy must understand that he must mind his Uncle Sam. Away, away, we'll all go down to Dixie. Away, away, we're marching down to Dixie. Let's see here. Oh, geez, so many notifications. Fuck. You play video games? Yeah, sometimes. Damn new guy in there went by Inky. Swear you could just sound like him any way you write and talk. Yeah, maybe. Maybe you guys know each other. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Everything I've tried just looks like it doesn't belong with it. Only thing that's kind of okay is the hoodie. Let me see. What were you saying? Midi, longish, dark green. I'm gonna recommend a sweater. You've tried, and you said the only thing that's kind of worked okay with it is a hoodie, but I'm gonna suggest a sweater. If you can find a sweater, especially one of those that kind of bunches at the wrist, but is kind of like baggy otherwise, that can be a nice complement to like a nice understated skirt that's kind of like longish and suitable for spring or fall. Um, if you've got dark green, that's a good opportunity to use like a lighter color top, which is also going to inspire like them to pay more attention to like your face, and it really does like, you know, contribute to a strong silhouette if you can mix up those colors like that. Bruce Diego, $2. Thank you so much. I appreciate that a ton. Bruce Diego 7836. Thank you. Everything I've tried just looks like it doesn't belong with it. The only thing that's kind of works is a hoodie. Yeah, so I'm gonna go with a sweater. Failing that, you could try a top kind of like the one that I've got. If it's the kind of sweater that you can wear that will complement a top like that, if you've got something that can kind of like give you that, you can either like make the understated skirt like an accent piece as part of an outfit that's otherwise pretty like charismatic, or you can like go with the understated kind of vibe and do a more like gothy kind of look. Sweater 100% and knit or woven one. Yeah, that's what I would recommend. Yeah. Turtlenecks have been my move lately. That's not a bad idea either. And if you do go with the gothy look, you can always like accessorize that and make it more of a flashy outfit by doing like some kind of little belt or something, you know? You should totally do a fashion tutorial someday. No, I shouldn't. No, I'm just kind of like thinking about what looks good in my head, and I know that can't be to everybody's tastes. I think I look good about half the time, but the other half of the time I look like a slob, so no. But thank you for the vote of confidence. I do appreciate it. I'm primarily goth, but I've been really loving the foresty slash fairy look. Yeah, there you go. It's a nice way to experiment with it. I feel like those looks are kind of adjacent too. And the great thing about the foresty slash fairy look is that it's very close and very adjacent to the hippie aesthetic, which it draws from heavily. So there's a lot of adjacency and a lot of like movement you can do. And interchange a lot of the same pieces. Man, this stream has been all over the fucking place today. We've talked about fashion, we've talked about Iran, we've talked about shit posting, we've talked about, I don't know, man, we've talked about everything. I forgot to unmute. Anyway, how many subs until we get the fashion video? Infinite subs, because I need to get some fashion tips myself before I start proselytizing to you guys about how y'all should dress. I can't believe I muted myself again. I'm so dumb. Not all the time, but when it comes to the streaming shit, faux pas all the time. Feeling sad tonight? Aw, why is that, Wasteland? Don't feel sad. Get glad. American consumer culture has poisoned the average brain, including mine. I changed out my earbuds thinking I goofed over the mute. Nope, just my dumb ass. Fucking up as usual. Was glad. Force flex, yeah. 20 reasons on top of poor mental health. Fair enough. Very fair. Very fair. Yeah. Well. Tell you what. It'll make you feel better. If you can go outside, then do that. And if you can't, we'll cover that. But if you can, go outside, turn off the stream, and look up at the stars and around at the trees. And take a few deep breaths and think about how beautiful it is that all of these living things coexist together. And how beautiful it is that you're a part of that. And look up into the stars and know that there are couples looking into that same sky who will make love for the first time tonight. There are old people gazing up at that same sky, remembering all the beautiful times they've had in their lives. Their parents with their children camping, looking up at that same starry sky, thinking about how epic it is, and how based and red-pilled that we've got so many planets and so many stars to look at. And if you can't do that, then, I don't know, Google pictures of the Grand Canyon and I guess stare at those for a few minutes while you keep listening to me on my, in your ear or whatever. If you can't go outside, doesn't really work. But in theory, you could get a similar feeling by Googling pictures of the sky, Now just reminded that I'm dying alone. See, Wasteland Games, you've got a problem of attitude. You are part of that. You're not dying alone. Nobody dies alone. That's just a Hobbesian mentality, man. Nobody dies alone. You got the nurses there at the very least. That's depressing. Maybe it's depressing to you. Fuck. How is that shit depressing to you guys? Man, it takes a particularly depraved society to produce a critical mass of people who are genuinely made worse off by hearing stories of hope. Like, that is fucked. What have we done with this fucking country to produce this attitude? I'm not even mad at you guys. I'm squarely mad at this country that has completely sapped people's ability to believe in something better. Or something good, even. Just, man, we're all just reveling in our cyclical ineptitude. Our flag is up on the moon. Anything's possible. That's kind of how I feel, Joey. I feel like if we can get our flag on the moon and end World War II, there's nothing we can't do. We just got to put our minds to it. Pale blue dot. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a shameless, cheap impression of Sagan's pale blue dot monologue, but whatever. It was my retarded stonery version of the pale blue dot monologue. People are lacking purpose. That's why. Well, that's why I constantly drill it into people's head, like joining local orgs, talking to your neighbors, like being out in public and just like going on 20-minute walks. One of the reasons I talk people on pushing this walk shit, right? Not fucking, it's not the fitness angle. I don't give a shit if you lose weight. I mean, if you want to, it's a good way to help. But ultimately, one of the things it does is help you get acquainted with your neighbors and help your neighbors get acquainted to seeing you and therefore seeing human beings out in the world. Because like we have become so atomized, and that atomization, I think, has led largely to this, this utter lack of purpose that so many people are struggling with. Girl, my neighbors hate me. Oops, and that's just the way it is sometimes, and it just sucks that it's like that. That's a failure of society. Nobody's neighbors should hate one another, but we've created a society that brews hatred. Could you please explain what's going on in the world? You seem like you know what you're talking about, please and thank you. I mean, I don't know that I know what I'm talking about. I read shit, but that doesn't, necessarily mean anything. What do you want to know about specifically? Screw Carol Satan. We not just blue dot. We are the blue dot, though, and that's beautiful. The blue dot is not... See, this is how fucked up people that are deeply religious are when it comes to their specious narrative about the world and humanity and humanity's relationship to the community of life. Because in the Christian narrative, human beings are simultaneously disgusting, horrible sinners that fall short of the image of God and the primary reason for the universe's entire existence. We are the reason why God creates the universe in the biblical narrative. And yet, they will hear a speech like that, and because it mentions how many different planets there are, and how unlikely it is for us to be the one that is specifically chosen, but yet how beautiful that we are all here together in this little outpost of life. I think that was supposed to be Carl Sagan. Yeah, I think they're saying Carol Satan because they're trying to make fun, but it just makes them sound kind of like, silly. Gnosticism tells us why we suffer. We are slaves. See, I feel like capitalism does a much better job of explaining it than Gnosticism does, though. Not only that, but opposing capitalism has, in theory, a flash, right? There's something you can push towards if you oppose capitalism. What are you supposed to do about the demiurge? And yeah, if you want to, we can talk more about Gnosticism, but try and think of one specific topic about it, like one specific angle maybe, or something, so we can make it like a 20-minute thing. Otherwise, we'll just kind of like go back and forth in the dialogue like we were for 20 minutes, but I've got so many problems with Gnosticism because I like a lot of its conclusions and a lot of its analysis, but I don't understand or actively dislike some of the precepts in other ways. Like, what do we do about the demiurge? Like, what do we do? Ow. Yeah, Scientology and Jainism tells us things too. Doesn't mean we have to confine our perceptions to what we're told. Yeah, exactly. Um, I think Gnosticism is an interesting framework to look at the world through, and I certainly would not try to convince Wasteland Games to not believe in it, but I do think it's an interesting bit of fodder for conversation because it is one of those things on which we disagree pretty fundamentally. I don't see any reason to ascribe any of humanity's suffering to outside influence of the divine. I see it all as pretty predictable consequences of the ongoing narrative of history. It's like, I think historical materialism is a far better framework to examine the past and the present and to try and predict what might happen in the future than like religious doctrines are, because historical materialism calls for you to like examine what's happened in the past and like apply that to what's happening today, and to look at the context in which different things happened and the influence that that has had on the ongoing narratives of history and like the big movers and shit. I should be locked up permanently. That would be a far edgier statement if you weren't like just echoing and parroting the same stupid bullshit that Stephen Miller and every other right-wing chud in Trump's administration says about leftists. Sorry, you're a little late to the game here. Yeah, I know you want me locked up permanently. Who created the universe? The universe wasn't created. It just happened. We don't know why. We know like what originated, like the originating event was like the Big Bang, but we don't know what happened before that. We don't know that the like conditions for the Big Bang themselves were created. As far as we know, it could be a cyclical process that's just been repeating forever. It might defy our human understanding. The entire idea that the universe had to have a beginning, that the universe has to have a beginning, middle, and an end, or that the universe has to have a beginning at all, is a human concept. It's because we beginning, middle, and end. It's because we are mortal. As mortals, it is impossible for us to conceptualize infinity. And the idea of something being infinitely repeating and having existed forever kind of breaks our brains. And so we long for these convenient but unscientific explanations for how it all started, but there's no evidence for any of them. You just keep telling yourself that you're miserable. You continue to subconsciously work, make it true. That's true. That's true. I don't think it's like the whole of it, but it is something you have to consider. I don't care how the universe happened. Here it is. That's also a good point. Ultimately, why does it matter? That's the real base position. I don't think it matters too much how the universe happened. Um, I don't see any evidence for there being any kind of divinity that presently cares what we do. Even if it did create the universe, that doesn't mean that it cares what we do. Even if it cares what we do, that doesn't mean that it punishes us for making the wrong decisions. Even if it punishes us for making the wrong decisions, there's no way for us to effectively know what the wrong and right decisions are, for sure, because anybody can edit the Bible, and the Bible's been edited a bunch of different times. So, it breaks down on every level. It breaks down with just a little critical analysis, just a little. One thing I've come to is, as pointless as it is to exist, it's even more pointless to cease existing. Yeah, literally. I actually value my life so tremendously these days, and I spend a lot of my life really not looking at it that way, but, life is beautiful, and it's a rare gift, and you've got so little time with it, so spend it wisely. The init matter just is greater than antimatter. What? Huh? I still don't know what you were trying to say, Bruised Ego. I've got no idea what you were trying to say there. It's automatically going to happen at some point. Ceasing to exist, so fuck it. Make what you want to be. I agree with that, Micaiah. I agree with that. Ain't it? The ain't it matter just as greater than antimatter? The ain't matter. I. I just like to imagine the universe was created, and since I don't believe there's any way for humans to understand that, I really just believe what makes me happier, if that makes sense. Oh, I'm totally fine with that. Yeah, literally, that is totally fine. I fucking don't blame you. For my part, my little convenient explanation for why it goes on forever is that it's all a big simulation. It doesn't mean that there aren't real consequences. It's functionally a meaningless belief, but it's a convenient way for me to explain in my own head with some fun sci-fi bullshit that doesn't really affect anything as to how the universe can possibly make sense in a way that doesn't break my brain. But if I ever try to remove that and just think about the universe in raw scientific terms, it is kind of a brain-breaking bug of physics that we've discovered that, we really have no evidence that the universe ever began. Which sounds like that, and when I say began, I mean even when it was all condensed into one single point of matter, that was still a thing that existed. What happened before that? That's the story of the beginning, or is it? Is it just story of cycle number 5,345? The universe was created on purpose? I just don't believe that. They're referring to the idea that in the Big Bang, an equal amount of classical matter and antimatter should have been created, then perfectly annihilated each other, but somehow we got leftovers. I mean, yeah, there's lots of things we don't understand about physics, but we've got pretty good explanations to give us a basic framework of things, of how things happen. But yeah, there are things about it that don't make sense. There are things about fucking quantum physics that don't make sense given our understanding of Newtonian physics. I am also a big fan of asymptotal time dilation with no definable beginning. I think the Big Bang is just where our measurements fall off, much like the Planck length or cosmological horizon. That could be. That could very well be. There is no strong evidence, in my opinion, to suggest that the universe ever had necessarily a beginning as we would understand it in a narrative structure. Since fatherhood, I realize life is beautiful. Most major changes won't be affected and isn't worth nominating my whole life or getting depressed about. You just do what you can. Faith makes it easy. Well, I agree that faith can definitely make it easier for some people, Joey. I wouldn't try and strip that from some people. I appreciate the $10 a ton. Thank you, as always. I appreciate when you guys donate a ton, and you've been known to be generous in here, so I appreciate it. But excuse me, to your point, life is really beautiful. And I figured out life was beautiful before motherhood, but I will say being a parent has helped me see the beauty in life a lot easier, and it's helped me to actively seek it out more too. Of course, it also causes me to be more disappointed with the world when it fucks up, but that's kind of the interplay, right? Life isn't inherently anything, but I'm glad when people are happy with their lives. Yeah, I mean, I guess life isn't inherently anything, but I like to think that life is beautiful. I prefer to think of life as beautiful. I personally see it as such. Maybe it isn't objectively, but nothing is anything objectively. I'm just your token conservative to balance the algorithm. That's not true. We got your guy and Mark and a couple of others, Finksy. No, I appreciate it a ton. I mean, when we had disagreements in here, those are pretty fun too. So it's always nice. I like having all kinds of diverse opinions up in here to argue with me and have conversations or whatever happens. Is life not objectively an experience? I guess. I was gonna argue against it, but then I fucking thought about it and I was like, I feel like I'd have to make a very semantical argument to argue against that. I didn't know you were a mom though, Phoebe. Yeah. Nihilism can be a great guide towards psychological peace as long as you don't follow it off the cliff at its logical conclusion. Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, for sure. I mean, pretty much every person who's ever theorized or talked about nihilism has talked about the danger of allowing yourself to get too caught up in the idea that nothing means anything. Nothing means anything should always be followed up with nothing means anything objectively. But there are lots of things that should mean quite a lot to you in your life because you have to keep on living because life is an experience. And you have emotions that are going to make you feel good, even if the universe is meaningless somewhere in the back of your head. You wouldn't have this channel, you weren't nothing. What? I think you're trying to say I wouldn't have this channel if I was nothing, but like, I don't think I'm nothing. But I don't think that I matter more than like I don't know how to put this. I don't think that there's any objective meaning to the universe. I don't think that human beings are the most important species on the planet. And I certainly don't think that, like, my tribe, whatever that may be, is any more important than any other tribe on this planet. So I don't believe that I'm nothing, but I also don't believe that I'm something special. Does that make sense? When nothing means anything, that just means you get to matters, pretty much, right? And Friedrich Nietzsche made same like commentary on the matter. You know, he wanted people to pursue art and like like the improvement of mankind, basically, as a stand-in for God and um, divinely derived meaning. Well, your boy's sleepy and inebriated. Good night, everyone. Great stream, great chat. Yeah, dude, I love how people like just get like drunk as lords and then fucking go to sleep. That's what they use this chat for. People just use this chat to get drunk as lords and then pass out. And I guess that's okay. You know, I guess that's a pretty good use of your time. Thank you, by the way, Bruised Ego, for the $10. I appreciate that. Why is Satan your father versus God? Tell the difference. I don't believe in Satan. I'm not a Satanist. I just have the fucking spirit board because I think it looks cool. And I have the pentagram on my guitar because my mom is like a Wiccan, pagan kind of witch kind of thing. I don't know, you know how to describe her spiritual beliefs, but it's like an homage to her because I feel like she's like been probably the most influential person when it comes to my development as a musician. So it just felt like a nice thing to do. I don't want to ruin the conversation, but I'm really curious. What kind of guitar is that? It is a Fender CC60S. When everything can mean anything, then there's infinite possibilities. You can say religion is true, and you can use it to create a beautiful life. Truly a double-edged sword. Yeah, well, I mean that's the thing though. Is if you have the right guiding principles going into the realization of nihilism, you will come out of it the other side with the right realization. But I do believe that it's important that people come to that point in their lives with the right precepts. Because if it comes to this moment, everybody comes to this moment in their life where they are confronted with the reality of either God or whatever religion they've been grown up into is real, or it's not. And if it's not, nihilism is true, and the horror of that. And when you get to that point, you either recoil back from the void that is nihilism and dive deeper into your religion, and that produces the people who are religious people into their adult lives, or you gaze into it and you realize, well, okay, I guess it doesn't really matter. I guess, I'll believe in God because that makes me feel better, and it's probably like, a safe hedge, I guess. But ultimately, I get to choose what's important in everything. Or you go the complete, like, positive, like, optimistic nihilist direction where you're like, okay, well, nothing means anything, but that means I don't have to believe in God, but I can still be moral and decide what I want to believe in and what I value, and I can axiomatically justify that. I love LTDs and Schecters myself. I got an Ovation acoustic as well. No, dude, I'm not a guitar collector anymore. I used to have a ton of them. I used to have like 2 Fenders, an Ibanez, Washburn, a Rogue, 2 Ibanezes actually, because I had one that was an art core hollow body, yellow with the chrome buttons and shit. God, that fucking guitar was so goddamn pretty. Only precepts I partake in is when I look in the mirror and say sup to myself before moving on with my day. Yeah, precepts are fucking hard to deal with. Do you follow any conservative commentators to balance out or see all sides? I don't know that I follow any, but I do check up into what they're saying, yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. I follow the White House's YouTube channel. I get the notifications whenever President Trump does a presser. I always get notified of those, and I usually step in and watch them for as long as I can tolerate it, 20 minutes or whatever. I'm also subscribed to, I think, Tyler Oliveira or whatever. There's a couple of the like right-wing big guys. Asmongold, I'll check in on him. Tucker Carlson, I think, is like an interesting one to check up on because he like has opinions that I think are reflective of the like MAGA split. Trying to think of any other big names that I'm like prone to look up and see what they're saying. I don't really look into them, but every so often I'll get fed some Ben Shapiro content. I gotta tell you guys, Ben Shapiro looks like shit these days. Ben Shapiro looks like he has gone on a fucking drug-fueled bender and lived outside on the streets of LA for the last 6 months. He's not, like, he's clearly fucking still a rich dude, but he has, like, done weird things to his face. Ask Jesus to be in your heart and still love your mom. What? It's just a symbol, bro. It's literally just a symbol, Bruce Eco. It doesn't have to go this deep. You see what I'm saying? It's just a symbol. If it was a little basket of French fries, would that be representative of demonic intent? If I said that it was representative of demonic intent, would that mean that it was representative of demonic intent everywhere? Exactly how many people have to believe that a certain icon has demonic intent before it actually does? And exactly how many icons? Like, can we eliminate all of American advertising by just saying it's all demonic? I wish. Yes, fries are evil. Okay, so maybe that was a bad example, but you get the idea. Like buses. What if I have a logo of a bus on my guitar and I say that's demonic? Does that mean a logo of a bus is always demonic everywhere you see it? Asmongold is a good one to see where normie guys are for sure. Timcast tries to get left wing on, but they cancel on him. He's old school, dim, and now seen as conservative. LOL. Well, that's the thing. Tim Pool really is like Tim Pool and Bill Maher are both representatives of the edgy old guard moderate dim. I recognize such, but the problem is the edgy old guard moderate dim and even the regular stodgy moderate dim, they were always conservatives, basically. Like, if you look at the Overton window in reference to any other country's politics, right, they would be considered right-wing, pretty much. They would be considered like center-right in Britain or Germany or France or anything like that. And here they're considered like centrist or like center-left, but I think it's actually appropriate that people like me on the left call people like Timcast or Bill Maher out for being like stodgy and outdated in their policies and representative of an older tendency on the party. I think it's right for people to disagree politically, I think it's right. I think we need to hash these differences out and figure out what's going on. I wouldn't cancel on Timcast, though. I would go on Tim Pool's show. He'd have to fly my broke ass out, though. Wouldn't Dem Party be afraid of losing the Midwest if the window moves too left? No. The Midwest loves leftism. You kidding me? If you actually fucking, like, maybe you run in different circles than I do, and I get that, but that's the thing. It's like, Missouri used to be considered way more of a battleground state. Illinois is incredibly to the left. I mean, Kat Abigzala almost very fucking. She came so close to winning her primary race in District 9. There is so much leftist energy in the Midwest. Minnesota with Tim Walz. There's still a lot of leftist energy and a lot of like approval within the state of a lot of Tim Walz's like policies, if you poll on the specific policies. So there is a lot of deeply progressive activism in the Midwest and the Deep South. We just aren't active in elections for the most part because the Democratic Party has made every effort to distance themselves from us. Why would we participate with a system that hates us? I guarantee you, for every dyed-in-the-wool MAGA person there is in the Midwest, there's a dyed-in-the-wool fucking hardcore anarchist / communist lefty type. They're just not voting for the most part. Maybe a third of them are voting. The rest of them make up a big chunk of that eligible but didn't vote number. Lawrence, Kansas, and KC go brrr. Yep. St. Louis go brrr. Chicago go brrr. Minneapolis go brrr. Denver go brrr. Every big city in the Midwest is hardcore leftist, so I don't know, man. I feel like it could happen. I feel like the main reason the Dems have been losing votes is because they've been shifting too far away from the left. In my southern town, I find most people are really indifferent about political stances. Surprising. It does differ on the town you're in, and it differs with the audience you're around too. But yeah, I mean, it depends. Like in the area that I'm near, I would say most people care about politics on some level, one way or the other. But it is becoming more rare to see people being open and loud about it. It's not becoming entirely rare, but it's becoming more rare. By the way, I'm about to get off here because it is getting rather late. But you guys have been tremendously generous tonight. We gotten up to 55.98, which is awesome. Last I checked, Tim flies out really anyone for the Culture War podcast since he's trying to grow it. Why not ask to see the needed audience size? No chance unless you take it. Ooh, that's a good good point. Yeah, I wonder how big you have to be before Tim will let you on. Born and raised here at Lawrence, we still get haters, but we have lots of openly queer peeps out and about all the time. Yeah, literally. All kinds of cities in the Midwest that are like that. Big fucking roving gangs of openly queer people just trying to make mimosas for everybody and get everybody's day better. I mean, hell, in St. Louis, you basically can't go to the grocery store without tripping over 10 lesbians. Skittle beaned me? I know, I was listening when you got beaned. I only said he takes small bites. Scotty's fucking wild, dude. You never know what'll fucking set Scotty off. And you know what's the weirdest thing? He is the chillest dude in person. He is the chillest fucking dude in person. And like, you know, like even at the meetups, but me and Glitch had lunch with TJ, Chelsea, and Scotty after the meetup the next day. And Scotty's like so like relentlessly chill and funny as shit too. I mean, obviously, you know, TJ and him both are, but it's like they make their fucking living being funny, but it's also just nice when somebody can be like casually kind of like, I don't know. I don't know how to talk about other people in a complimentary fashion. in a way that doesn't sound dick sucky. Before you get off, appreciate you chatting a bit. I was so bored. Haha, take care. Yeah, I'm glad I could entertain. The only thing I would do to him in person is kiss that cute little forehead. Oh my god, no. You couldn't. Scotty's too tall. He doesn't look that tall because you always see him compared to TJ, but Scotty is like fucking tall as shit. He's as tall as me, if not a little taller. Gotta get back to making power cables. Sleep well and good luck. Well, hey, you know what? With all that, we are going to go ahead and go. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. Thank you guys for being so generous. I know he's like 6 foot. Yeah, no, he's big. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you guys for being so generous. I will see you guys later. Peace.